The battlefield decree. The crimson dust of Proxima 4 swirled around Captain Jackson Reed as he stood before what remained of the hegemony's forward command post. Blood caked his armor, some his own, most belonging to enemies who had underestimated humanity's resolve. The battle had been brutal but decisive. Earth's coalition forces had prevailed against overwhelming odds. Jackson removed his helmet, revealing a face weathered by war but still handsome beneath the grime. Dark eyes that had seen too much, a strong jaw tightened by determination, and a scar that cut across his left cheek, a souvenir from his first interstellar campaign. "Captain Reed," came a melodic voice through his comm unit. "Your presence is requested in the diplomatic pavilion. Immediately." He sighed, scanning the horizon where medical drones zipped between the wounded. "Can it wait? We've got casualties that need—" "The Empress herself has requested you," the voice interrupted. "It would be unwise to delay." 20 minutes later, Jackson stood in the gleaming pavilion of Empress Thalira of the Nixian Empire, Earth's most powerful ally in the war against the hegemony. The Nixians were humanoid but unmistakably alien, tall with iridescent skin that shifted colors with their emotions, elongated fingers, and eyes with vertical pupils that reminded Jackson of cats. The Empress rose from her crystalline throne. She towered over him at nearly 7 feet tall, her skin currently a deep authoritative purple. "Captain Reed," she purred, "your valor has turned the tide of this campaign. The hegemony retreats as we speak." Jackson bowed stiffly. "Thank you, Your Majesty. My soldiers fought bravely." "Indeed." She gestured, and 2 Nixian warriors stepped forward from the shadows. Female, Jackson thought, though with Nixians it was sometimes hard to tell. Both wore the distinctive silver-blue armor of the Imperial Vanguard, the elite fighting force that had aided Earth's troops on the ground. "These are Vesper and Oriel," the Empress said, "2 of my finest warriors." Jackson nodded respectfully to them. The taller one, Vesper, had skin that glimmered with flecks of gold beneath a translucent blue. Her companion, Oriel, was slightly shorter, her skin a deeper azure with swirls of silver. "They fought at your side during the assault on the ridge," the Empress continued. "They speak highly of your tactical acumen." "The feeling is mutual," Jackson replied cautiously. "Your vanguard turned the battle in our favor." The Empress's lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "By ancient Nixian tradition, when a commander demonstrates exceptional valor, they are granted a boon." She gestured toward the 2 warriors. "These 2 are yours, soldier, by right of victory." Jackson froze. "I don't understand." "It's quite simple," the Empress said. "Vesper and Oriel will serve you for 1 orbital cycle. They will protect you, advise you, and—" Her smile widened. "Attend to whatever needs you might have." Vesper's skin flushed a deep indigo. Embarrassment? Anger? Oriel remained impassive, though Jackson noticed her fingers twitching slightly at her side. "Your Majesty," Jackson said carefully, "while I'm honored, humans don't. We don't accept people as rewards." The Empress's skin darkened ominously. "This is not slavery, Captain. It is the highest honor in Nixian culture to serve a proven warrior. To refuse would cause grave offense not only to me but to them." She gestured to the warriors. "The arrangement is temporary but binding. They are yours until the next solstice." As Jackson struggled to find a diplomatic response, he caught Vesper's eye. Something in her gaze, a silent plea, a warning, made him hesitate. "I accept this honor," he said finally, the words feeling foreign on his tongue, "and will respect the tradition." The Empress's skin lightened to a satisfied lavender. "Excellent. They will accompany you back to your vessel immediately." As they exited the pavilion, Jackson whispered, "I'm getting us all out of this, somehow." Oriel leaned close, her voice barely audible. "Captain Reed, for your sake and ours, I suggest you don't try." Easy alliance. The journey back to Jackson's ship, the Horizon Seeker, was tense and silent. The vessel was a mid-sized Terran cruiser, battle-scarred but resilient, much like its captain. As they approached the docking bay, curious glances from the crew followed the trio. "Captain on deck," Lieutenant Dara Patel called out, her eyes widening at the sight of the two Nixian warriors flanking Jackson. Her hand instinctively moved toward her sidearm. "At ease, Lieutenant," Jackson said. "Our allies will be staying with us for a while." "By imperial decree," Vesper added, her melodic voice carrying an undercurrent of something Jackson couldn't quite identify. Resignation? Defiance? Dara's professional mask slipped for just a moment. "Sir, Command didn't mention any—" "It's a recent development," Jackson interrupted. "I'll brief you privately. For now, find quarters for our guests near my own." Once in his private office, Jackson slumped into his chair. The two Nixians stood at attention, their posture perfect, their eyes unreadable. "All right," he said, running a hand through his short, dark hair. "Let's establish some ground rules. First, you're not my property. Whatever the Empress said, that's not how things work here." Oriel's skin rippled with shades of green. "Captain Reed, you misunderstand. This assignment is an honor among our people." "Being gifted to a stranger is an honor?" Jackson asked skeptically. "Being chosen to represent the Empire alongside a warrior of proven worth," Vesper clarified. Her golden fleck seemed to pulse with intensity. "Our presence affirms the alliance between our species." Jackson leaned forward. "And if I had refused?" The two Nixians exchanged glances. "The Empress would have seen it as a rejection of Nixian culture," Oriel said carefully. "It could have complicated diplomatic relations at a critical moment in the war." "So I was manipulated," Jackson said flatly. Vesper's skin darkened slightly. "We prefer to call it cultural exchange." Despite himself, Jackson felt a smile tugging at his lips. "At least you have a sense of humor." "A survival trait when serving the Empress," Oriel replied with unexpected candor. The ship's AI interrupted. "Captain, incoming transmission from Earth Command, Priority Alpha." The holographic display flickered to life, revealing Admiral Kenji Takeda, his weathered face grave. "Reed, what's this I hear about you accepting personal servants from the Nixian Empress?" Jackson winced. "News travels fast, sir. Diplomatic channels are buzzing. Some are calling it a breakthrough, others a scandal." The Admiral's eyes drifted to the Nixians. "Are those them?" Vesper and Oriel bowed in perfect unison. "Sir, I had little choice," Jackson explained. "Refusing would have been a diplomatic incident." Takeda sighed. "The xenocultural team is having fits, but they agree. You play along for now. The alliance is too important." His eyes narrowed. "But Reed, be careful. The Nixians never give gifts without purpose." After the transmission ended, an uncomfortable silence filled the room. "He's not wrong," Jackson said finally. "So what's the real reason you're here?" Oriel's skin swirled with complex patterns. "To serve with honor, as stated. And to learn," Vesper added. "Your tactics against the hegemony were unexpected, effective." Jackson studied them, noting how Vesper's fingers brushed against Oriel's briefly. A gesture of reassurance? "So you're here to study human warfare?" "Among other things," Oriel said. The ship shuddered suddenly, alarms blaring. "Captain, to the bridge." Dara's voice came through the comm. "Hegemony vessels have breached the perimeter." Jackson rose, reaching for his tactical gear. To his surprise, Vesper handed him his weapon belt before he could grab it. "We fight together now, Captain Reed," she said, her skin now a battle-ready crimson. "As is our tradition." Oriel unsheathed a curved blade that hummed with energy. "The Empress chose us for our combat skills as well as our diplomatic talents." As they rushed toward the bridge, Jackson realized that whatever game the Empress was playing, these warriors were now his responsibility, and perhaps his greatest asset in the battles to come. The Empress's game. The bridge of the Horizon Seeker erupted into controlled chaos as Jackson burst through the doors, Vesper and Oriel close behind. Tactical displays showed 3 hegemony cruisers emerging from the debris field of the recent battle. They were hiding, Lieutenant Patel reported, her fingers dancing across the control panel. Powered down among the wreckage, waiting. Clever, Jackson muttered. Status of our shields? 70% and holding, sir. Vesper stepped forward, her eyes scanning the tactical display with practiced efficiency. These are Ravager-class vessels. The central ship carries their commander. Jackson raised an eyebrow. How can you be certain? The formation, Oriel explained, pointing to the slightly staggered arrangement. It's a ceremonial approach. The hegemony believes death in battle brings glory, but only if properly witnessed by a superior. The communication panel chimed. They're hailing us, Captain, said Communications Officer Tenzin. On screen. A hegemony commander appeared, humanoid, but with a distinctly reptilian appearance, scales gleaming beneath the harsh lights of his bridge. His forked tongue flicked out as he spoke. Captain Reed, how fortunate to find you, accompanied by Nixian royalty. His eyes fixed on Vesper and Oriel with unsettling intensity. Jackson frowned. Royalty? The hegemony commander's mouth stretched into what might have been a smile. Oh? They didn't tell you? He laughed, a harsh sound like grinding metal. How typical of the Empress to play her games. Vesper stepped forward, her skin now a deep authoritative purple remarkably similar to the Empress's. Commander Zarkesh, your violation of the ceasefire will not go unpunished. The ceasefire died with the truth, Princess Vesper. Zarkesh's eyes gleamed. Prepare to be boarded. The daughters of Thalira will make excellent bargaining chips. The transmission cut, leaving stunned silence on the bridge. Jackson turned slowly to face the Nixians. Princess? Vesper's skin swirled with complex patterns of embarrassment and defiance. Half-sisters to the Empress of the 3rd tier of succession. Which you conveniently failed to mention, Jackson said, his voice dangerously calm. Would you have acted differently if you knew? Oriel challenged, her silver patterns flashing defensively. Before Jackson could answer, the ship rocked violently, as the first volley from the hegemony vessel struck. Evasive maneuvers, he ordered, pushing his personal feelings aside. Tenzin, send a distress signal to any coalition forces in range. Lieutenant Patel, prepare countermeasures. As the crew sprang into action, Jackson pulled the Nixians aside. I need to know what we're dealing with. Why would the Empress send her own sisters into a war zone? Vesper's skin darkened. Politics. We are inconvenient to her current agenda. Elaborate, Jackson demanded as another blast shook the ship. The Empress is negotiating a permanent alliance with Earth, Oriel explained hurriedly. But there are factions in our court who oppose it. They support us as alternative heirs. So she sent you away for your safety? Jackson asked. Vesper laughed bitterly. No, Captain. She sent us away to remove us from the political equation. If we die heroically in battle alongside Earth's forces, we become martyrs for the Alliance. If we survive, we remain bound to... You unable to challenge her decisions? Oriel finished. The tactical display blinked red as boarding pods launched from the hegemony vessels. Impact in 30 seconds, Captain, Lieutenant Patel called out. Jackson made a split-second decision. I need you both on the defense teams. Your knowledge of hegemony tactics could save my crew. He locked eyes with Vesper. But this conversation isn't over. The princesses nodded, drawing their weapons in unison. Breaching pods will target decks 4 through 6, Vesper said, her warrior training taking precedence over royal status. Their first wave will be shock troops, Oriel added, designed to cause panic rather than secure territory. Jackson activated his tactical comm. All hands prepare for boarding action, focus defense on decks 4 through 6. He turned to his security chief. Commander Russo, coordinate with our Nixian guests. They know what we're up against. They moved to their battle stations. Oriel caught Jackson's arm. Her skin had taken on a warm amber glow that he hadn't seen before. Captain? She said softly. Whatever game the Empress is playing, our loyalty in battle is to you, by tradition, and now, by choice. Vesper nodded, her gold flecks shimmering. We may be pawns, Captain Reed, but we are also warriors, and we fight, alongside you, freely. The ship shuddered as the first boarding pod breached the hull. Alarms blared throughout the Horizon Seeker as Jackson led his unlikely allies toward the coming battle, wondering which was more dangerous, the hegemony forces, breaking into his ship, or the Royal Nixian secret now under his protection. Forbidden connections. The aftermath of battle left the Horizon Seeker scarred but victorious. The hegemony boarding parties had been repelled, their ships driven back by the timely arrival of coalition reinforcements. Now, in the quiet hours of the ship's night cycle, Jackson sat in the observation deck, staring at the stars as he nursed both a glass of Terran whiskey and a wound on his shoulder. Your medics would disapprove of that combination, came Vesper's melodic voice as she entered the dimly lit space. Jackson didn't turn. Are princesses supposed to sneak up on their captains? I wasn't sneaking. You were lost in thought. She moved. Beside him, her skin glowing a soft blue in the starlight. Oriel is helping your engineering team with the hull repairs. She has always been gifted with technology. And what are your gifts, Princess Vesper? Jackson asked, finally looking at her. Strategy, combat, reading people. She tilted her head. Right now I read anger in you. Disappointment. Jackson sighed. I don't like being used as a pawn in someone else's game. None of us do, she replied, her skin briefly flashing darker. Yet here we are. Silence stretched between them, strangely comfortable despite the tension of their situation. You fought well today, Jackson said finally. Both of you. My security chief says Oriel saved at least 5 of my crew. Vesper's skin rippled with pleasure at the compliment. And you impressed us. Humans are often underestimated, but you... She trailed off, her eyes catching his. You fight with both passion and precision. It's compelling. Something in her tone made Jackson's pulse quicken. He cleared his throat. Tell me about the Empress. What kind of sister sends her siblings? Into danger? The kind who was never meant to rule, Vesper said quietly. Thalira was third in line for the throne. Then there was an accident, at least officially. And unofficially, power has its own gravity, Captain Reed. It pulls the ambitious toward it, often leaving broken bodies in its wake. Jackson nodded grimly. Some things are universal, it seems. The door slid open again as Oriel entered, her silver patterns gleaming against her azure skin. The repairs are proceeding ahead of schedule. Your engineer Torres is quite brilliant. High praise from a Nixian princess, Jackson said with a small smile. Oriel's expression remained serious. We need to discuss our situation, Captain. The hegemony now knows who we are. This makes your ship a priority target. I won't endanger my crew, Jackson said firmly. If necessary, we can arrange transport for you back to... No, both sisters said simultaneously. Vesper stepped closer. If we return now, Thalira will have us contained, or worse. And your presence here complicates matters, Oriel added, sitting across from them. The traditional bond between a warrior and those granted to them, it grows stronger with shared battle. Jackson frowned. What does that mean exactly? Vesper's skin flushed with swirls of deep purple and pink, emotions Jackson hadn't seen from her before. It means we're becoming connected. It's part of our biology. When Nixians fight alongside those they're bonded to, certain attachments form. Physiological and psychological, Oriel clarified, her own skin displaying similar patterns. We begin to anticipate each other's movements, sense each other's emotions. I felt it in battle, Jackson admitted. It was like I knew where you both would be, what you would do next. Yes, Vesper whispered. And it will only intensify. Jackson set down his glass. Is this why the Empress gave you to me? To create some kind of psychic bond? Oriel's expression darkened. No. She likely expected you to treat us as trophies, keeping us isolated from battle. The bond would have remained dormant, Instead, you made us part of your crew, Vesper said. You fought beside us as equals. And now? Jackson asked, suddenly aware of how close Vesper was sitting, how her skin seemed to pulse with light that called to something within him. Now we are caught between tradition and something new, Oriel said softly. The bond was meant to ensure loyalty between gifted warriors and their new commanders. It wasn't meant for what? Jackson prompted when she trailed off. Vesper's hand moved tentatively toward his, her elongated fingers hovering just above his skin. For feelings beyond loyalty, Captain Reed. The air between them seemed charged with electricity. Jackson found himself captivated by the shifting colors beneath Vesper's skin, the depth in her feline eyes. This is forbidden, Oriel whispered. Yet she too had moved closer. Nixian royalty and a human captain. I'm getting the impression, Jackson said carefully, that neither of you is particularly concerned with following your sister's rules. Small smile played across Vesper's lips. Rebellion runs in our bloodline, Captain. Jackson, he corrected gently. If we're developing some kind of bond, you might as well use my name. The ship's communication system interrupted the moment. Captain, read to the bridge, priority message from Earth Command. Jackson stood reluctantly. Duty calls. As he moved toward the door, Oriel spoke. The Empress will discover what's happening between us. When she does, she will not be pleased. Then we'd better have a plan ready, Jackson replied, his gaze lingering on both sisters before he left, aware that whatever was developing between them had just made an already complicated situation infinitely more dangerous and more intriguing. Breaking tradition. The royal palace of the Nixian Empire loomed before the Horizon Seeker, a massive structure of crystalline spires that captured the light of the system's twin suns and fractured it into dazzling prismatic displays. Jackson stood on the bridge, his formal Terran uniform uncomfortable after months in battle gear. Docking procedures initiated, Captain, Lieutenant Patel announced, her voice tight with tension. Are you certain this is wise? Commander Russo asked quietly. Walking into the Empress's domain after everything? Jackson's jaw tightened. Sometimes the best defense is a bold offense. Behind him, Vesper and Oriel stood in traditional Nixian royal attire for the first time since joining his crew. The flowing garments of iridescent fabric enhanced rather than concealed the emotional colors shifting beneath their skin, currently a complex blend of determination, anxiety, and something deeper when their eyes met Jackson's. Over the past weeks, their bond had grown beyond anything Jackson could have imagined. In battle, they moved as one unit, anticipating each other with uncanny precision. In quieter moments, the connection had blossomed into something neither human nor Nixian tradition had names for, a relationship that transcended both cultures. The Empress expects us to be cowed, Oriel said, her silver patterns flashing, with resolve. She will not be prepared for what we've become. And what exactly have we become? Jackson asked softly. Vesper's skin glowed with warm gold and rose hues. Something new, something stronger. The ship docked with a gentle shudder. A delegation of Nixian royal guards awaited them, their ceremonial armor gleaming. Remember the plan, Jackson murmured as they prepared to disembark. We're here to negotiate, not provoke. Speak for yourself, Vesper replied with a hint of mischief. Provocation is a royal Nixian specialty. The escort led them through towering hallways where other Nixians stopped and stared, whispering behind, elegant hands as they passed. Jackson heard fragments. The human captain, the princesses, the bond. News had traveled fast, it seemed. The throne room doors opened to reveal Empress Thalira, resplendent and cold upon her crystalline seat. Her skin was a deep, intimidating purple, with occasional flashes of red betraying her anger despite her composed expression. Captain Reed, she acknowledged, her voice carrying throughout the vast chamber. I see you've brought my sisters back safely. How thoughtful. Jackson bowed precisely the amount required by protocol. No more, no less. Your Majesty, I've come. to discuss the terms of our arrangement. Arrangement? Thalira's eyes narrowed. There is nothing to discuss. The ceremonial period ends today. My sisters will return to their proper place in the court. And where might that be? Oriel asked, stepping forward. In isolation? Under guard? Or perhaps another convenient assignment far from the succession discussions? Murmurs rippled through. The court officials and nobles gathered along the walls. Watch your tone, Thalira warned, leaning forward. You forget yourself, sister. No, Vesper countered, moving to stand beside Oriel. For the first time, we remember ourselves. And our worth. Jackson observed the subtle shifts in the room, the way certain courtiers moved closer, eyes keen with interest. The political factions Vesper had mentioned were clearly present and watching. Your Majesty, Jackson said, redirecting attention. During our time together, your sisters and I have developed what I understand to be a rare bond, one recognized by ancient Nixian tradition. The Empress's skin darkened further. Impossible. Such bonds take years to form. Unless accelerated by shared battle and genuine respect, came a new voice. An elderly Nixian stepped forward from the sidelines, his skin a pale, wise blue. I am Elder Thorin, keeper of traditions. I have observed the connection between these three from the moment they entered. It is genuine, and by our oldest laws, binding. Thalira rose, her composure slipping. You overstep, Elder. This human cannot possibly understand our ways. On the contrary, Jackson replied calmly. I've learned much about Nixian culture, including the law of tripartite union, a tradition even older than the victory boon you invoked. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Thalira's skin flashed alarming shades of red and black. The law of tripartite union, Elder Thorin explained for the benefit of the court, states that when three warriors form a battle bond so profound it crosses into their spirit, they may claim status as a formal alliance, independent, yet respected, by all Nixian houses. You would dare? Thalira hissed at her sisters. We would live, Oriel answered, not as pawns but as partners, with each other and with Captain Reed. Vesper stepped forward, her skin glowing with confidence. The alliance between humans and Nixians need not be merely political, sister. It can be personal, powerful, a true merging of our strengths. Jackson moved to stand between the princesses, completing their triangle formation. The moment he did, something extraordinary happened. A visible shimmer of energy connected the three of them, their skin tones harmonizing into a unified pattern. Elder Thorin bowed deeply. The sacred triad manifests. It cannot be denied. Thalira sank back onto her throne, defeat and calculation warring in her expression. Very clever, Captain Reed. You've managed to turn my gift into a political masterstroke. Not political, Jackson corrected. Personal. Vesper and Oriel aren't bargaining chips or inconvenient successors. They're extraordinary individuals who deserve respect, not manipulation. A tense silence filled the chamber as the Empress considered her options, clearly calculating the political ramifications of her next move. Finally, she nodded once sharply. The tripartite union is acknowledged. Captain Reed, you and my sisters will serve as official ambassadors between our peoples. Her eyes narrowed. But remember, Captain, you now stand in two worlds. The responsibilities of both will be considerable. As they left the throne room, Vesper's fingers intertwined with Jackson's. She'll try to undermine us at every turn, she whispered. Let her try, Oriel said from his other side, her skin pulsing with determined silver light. What we've created is stronger than her schemes. Jackson looked at both of them, these extraordinary beings who had gone from unexpected gifts to essential parts of his life. So what happens now? Vesper smiled, her skin glowing with warm hues. Now, Captain Reed, we write our own traditions. Oriel's expression mirrored her sister's. Together. As they walked toward the future, one human soldier and two Nixian princesses bound by something neither culture had anticipated, Jackson reflected that the greatest victories weren't won on battlefields, but in moments of connection that transcended the boundaries of worlds, species, and tradition. The Empress had declared, "These two are yours, soldier, by right of victory." But what none of them had expected was that in the end, they would all belong to each other, creating something entirely new in the vast expanse of the stars.